Hello, and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Ridley, and this is my kitchen, how I found it. We are doing our next stop in Mexico today, and we're actually taking a trip to Puebla, where there is a historic dish called Chile en Nogada. And this one actually also is traced specifically back to 1821, where some Argentinian nuns created this dish to specifically celebrate the newly liberated Mexican army. And so because of that, the colors of it are designed to mirror the Mexican flag. So it has green, it has white, and it has red right on top of it. So we'll sort of get to how that comes together, but it's supposed to be a very festive, celebratory sort of dish. It actually starts with a ingredient that I've used for chile relleno before, but this is a poblano pepper, and all I've done with this one is I've charred the outside of it. So you can do this by putting it under a broiler or putting it on a grill or using a propane torch. And then I've put it in a plastic bag here, and that's gonna let it steam. And so right before we actually use it, I'm just gonna peel the skin off, and the steaming is gonna have helped get us there. But so we start with a poblano pepper, and then we are going to stuff that just like with the chile rellenos, but a completely different flavor set. So it starts with some savory ingredients. This is a half and half blend of pork and ground beef, and then that gets mixed with some onion and some garlic, along with a little bit of salt and pepper and tomato sauce. But that is our savory base, which already that sounds like a very savory, rich tomato-based dish. But immediately after that, we're adding in slivered almonds, diced plantains, and candied pineapples. Now for the candied pineapples, the traditional ingredient here is a thing called biznaga, which is a type of candied barrel cactus. But it is illegal to cultivate for sale and production of this candy anymore because it was becoming endangered. So all of the recommendations say to use candied pineapple as a replacement. That gets mixed with some raisins along with apple, and then this is peach. Now I wasn't able to get any good ripe peaches right now because they're not in season, so this one I just found some diced peach that I got in water as opposed to syrup because I didn't want to adjust the sugar content too much. That gets touched up with a tiny bit of spice, so this is just a little pinch of cinnamon and clove. So here already, inside a pepper, we have savory with meat and onion and garlic, and then we're mixing in the sweetness of fruits and nuts and a tiny bit of almost like holiday-ish spices, but definitely more on that, that spice note. And then covering all of that is a walnut sauce. And so we've got some halved walnuts here without the skins on them, a little bit of sour cream or Mexican table cream. I have some Mexican table cream. And then a little bit of heavy whipping cream or milk and some goat's cheese. And that's going to make the white sauce that covers the pepper. And so we've got the pepper covered in white sauce, and then it is going to be deep fried, or I guess shallow fried, in a little bit of batter, and garnished with the green from some parsley, and the red, which the red is supposed to come from pomegranate seeds, but again, I didn't have any in stock, so I instead chose some cherries, because this should give a little bit of tart, a little bit of sweet, and that dark red color, which is very important, because it's that red, the green, and the white sauce. So this is kind of a celebratory, savory, sweet meat chile rellenos with fruit. I have no idea, but I'm very, very excited to figure it out. So the only thing that is not really prepped for me to move forward with right here is that pepper. So like I was saying, after it's been steaming in that bag for about 10 minutes, you should be able to come on here and pretty easily just scrape the skin right off. And this actually helps to reduce bitterness from what I've been told. I haven't done a whole lot of one-on-one testing, but I do know that it also helps to soften the walls of the pepper. Just because you've added heat to them, it breaks down some of those cell walls, and it makes it a little bit easier to work with without it being too crunchy. So this right here, we are just going to toss as extra. You don't need it anywhere in the dish itself. And then what we're going to be doing is slicing open the side of the pepper and almost making like a pocket of it. So we open up the side, we clear out all of the seeds and the veins that are on the inside, and then that is where we're going to be putting this mixture of meat and fruits and nuts, frying that up in a very simple batter, and that is the basis of the chile en nogada. Which, specifically, nogada is the name of the walnut sauce. So if you wanted to be very specific, you could just make the chili, make the walnut sauce, and I guess that would be chile en nogada, but we gotta have the garnishes, you gotta have the colors, make it fun. All right, so we've got that there, an incision right down the side. Can open this up, and then inside we can get at all of the veining, all of the pith, and all of the seeds. Okay, so now we've got an open pepper here. I'm gonna do a quick rinse of the inside to get rid of these loose seeds that remain. But then, after I get the remainder of them done, you can make as many or as few as you want. I'm gonna be doing 6 today, but I will prep the rest of those, and we are going to head back to the stove so that we can actually start cooking up the meat and making that filling that's gonna go inside of our peppers. So, let's move on back. Okay, so we have added a couple of tablespoons of olive oil into our pan. I'm just letting that preheat for a second. We're gonna start by adding in some of those onions, letting those fry off for just a minute or two before we add the meat, so that way those two flavors can thoroughly mix together, and then we're just going to let that cook for a couple of minutes to brown the meat down. All right, we're getting there. So onions go in. We don't need these to necessarily get browned up right now. We are just getting them coated in the oil, and I guess using it to help mix everything around the pan. Perfect, and we are getting a little bit of a sizzle on it. Okay, so next on top of that, we've got the mix of ground beef and ground pork. Give this a little break up, mix it in with the onions. Okay, so meat is mostly broken up, starting to brown. We can add in the garlic, the tomato sauce, and the salt and pepper. Give it a nice stir to get everything mixed together. And then we are going to let this cook for probably about 5 or 6 minutes, just to completely cook the rest of the meat that's in there. We don't want any pink left, and also to make sure that all these flavors are mixed together. So we'll give this about 5 minutes and just stir it occasionally throughout. Okay, so while I'm letting this cook some out, I am going to separate some egg yolks from egg whites, because for the breading step on this one, it actually says to beat the whites into stiff peaks, and then reincorporate the yolks back into it. Now, it's important that you separate the yolks out beforehand because the yolks have too much fat in them, from my understanding, and if they are inside the yolks, they won't allow for them to whip up into that airy texture that you need in order to get stiff peaks. So just be careful when you are separating like this, because any amount of yolk getting into the whites below will completely ruin your ability to get them to stiff peaks. Right, in this case, I had a couple of shells make it in, but shells are okay. They can be pulled out. A yolk cannot be extracted. All right. So now that I've got some egg whites, I am just going to whip these very thoroughly for however long it takes to get to stiff peaks. When I get there, I'll show you what the stiff peaks look like in case you haven't seen that, because it's a specific consistency of the eggs on the whisk after you've pulled the whisk out. And in the meantime, it looks like we are ready for our next step with the meat. So, this has cooked really nicely. All of the meat is definitely browned and cooked through. So we're going to add some almonds, candied pineapple, plantains, raisins, apples, and pears. Not pears, peaches. Okay, so this is all going to get a thorough mix. And then I'm gonna let it continue cooking for probably another 5 minutes, just to allow all of the flavors to thoroughly enmesh, and probably to soften out the fruit a little bit, since the apple's gonna have some extra crunch to it. But I have no idea texturally what I'm looking for, so I'm just gonna have to trust the processes that I've found. So we'll give this a few minutes, and while this is still cooking, I have extra time to whisk. Oh, smells nice though. All right, whisking time. And yes, it is just this for a very long time. This has been cooking now for another 5 minutes or so. Everything has everything is softened up. The meat is thoroughly cooked. The aroma is spectacular, but also very interesting and different. So this is now going off, and I am going to just let this sit off the heat to cool down a bit until we are ready to stuff the peppers. In the meantime, I have been making some progress on the egg whites, but I've still got a little bit further to go until I reach stiff peaks. So I'm gonna keep working on this, and then once this is at a pretty good point, I will move on with making the walnut sauce. And by that point, we should be at a good position to start stuffing some peppers. We have been whipping for, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes now. My shoulder hates me, as it does every time that I make stiff peaks. So with this one, the way that you can tell is when you pull the whisk out, you should be able to get a nice stiff peak from that separation. If it flops over, then that's more of a soft peak, but this is sort of what we're looking for stiff peaks. So I have got this right about where we want now. So we've got 4 egg whites whipped to stiff peaks, and then I've got the 4 egg yolks right here. I'm gonna mix these together, and right before we actually go and make the batter, we are going to mix these 2 together so we have like a foamy, creamy base that our batter will be able to stick to. So let's set that aside for now. Move this one back over here. And then for the walnut sauce, I'm just gonna grab a couple of ingredients together, move the blender out here, and this is gonna be a really quick throw it into the little blender cup and mix it together. So, sauce-wise, it is just the walnuts that we had from earlier into the cup. We have the heavy cream or whole milk. In this case, I had some heavy cream around, so I am going to use that for a little bit of a richer sauce. We have this, which is crema mexicana. And that one instead you can use sour cream if you would prefer. Get everything out of there. All right. And a little bit of salt and a pinch of sugar. And that is the sauce. So we're just gonna blend this together. All right. It's getting very, very thick. I still am seeing quite a lot of particles in there from the walnuts. I think I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of milk to this, just because the cream versus the milk would be a lot thicker, have more fat content. And I don't have any extra cream. This was sort of the last that I had on hand, so maybe a couple teaspoons in there just to loosen it up a touch. And that was looking much better. First of all, there's actually some flow to it now. It's more of a sauce than a paste. And I was seeing some of those larger particles being pulled up into the eddies and then drawn back into the vortex. There we go. Oh, that smells really interesting. All right, so we have our sauce ready for now. Ooh, ooh, hoo, hoo, hoo. I almost forgot an entire ingredient that is very, very important. So the goat's cheese from earlier is also supposed to be in here. So let me add that in, and that would have added an incredibly tangy element. I'm very glad that that's in there because it did seem a little underwhelming with the scent before. Okay. All right, let's see how that affects it. Oh, okay. That made a big difference. All right, you can definitely get the tanginess from the cheese. Now we have our Nogada ready. So I'm gonna set this one off to the side, clear some things here, and prepare our shallow frying station and our breading station for the peppers. But the last step is to get the stuffing inside the peppers. We're gonna close them up with some toothpicks, and then they're gonna go straight into some hot oil, and that is the fried peppers. So quick rearranging, and we'll be right back. So now that we have got everything ready, we're going to build the peppers and get cooking. With those, I'm gonna go ahead and start the oil preheating in this pan right here, and that's just gonna be heating up in the background because we want it to be hot when we get the peppers into them. Now for the egg here, the last step, like I said, we've got our stiff peaks here, so we're going to add those yolks back in, and I'm just going to do this with a rubber spatula here and fold them in. I've never had this sort of mix before where it has me separate out, whisk up, and then mix back in, but I'm guessing it is to promote more of the fluffiness in this batter, so it's gonna be more easy to mix around. So we don't wanna be too heavy-handed here because it'll break up a lot of this really, really fluffy egg white that we spent a lot of time making. All right, so get that mixed in. It's got a nice golden color, and it's definitely a different texture than if I had just whipped this all together, for sure. Okay, there are a couple bits of it that are wanting to remain super, super dense at the bottom, so I'm gonna try and mix those in as best I can. All right, so that is our egg mix. We'll set that off to the back for now. Then what we will do is we will bring in our pepper. And so this is that one that we opened up earlier. We are going to take a 1/4 cup of this filling here, and we're gonna put that directly inside the pepper. Don't wanna go too much here because we are going to need to close the pepper up around the filling, and then we're just going to stick it into place with some toothpicks. And the recipes that I've seen say use as many toothpicks as you need. The important thing is that you get a really good seal on it because we're gonna be then putting this into the oil to fry with that batter on it. All right, so let's see if we can close this up. I have some pretty long toothpicks, so I'm thinking I can do one down the side and then maybe one more over the top to seal that up. Or maybe a couple across the top. Because again, we do not want this all leaking out everywhere. Maybe one through there, and another one across here. And I did not see any particular tutorials or anything that really made this step clear, so I'm sort of winging it here. I've got 3 in this one. Let's do maybe one more across this top bit here. All right, and so then I'm gonna come back, I'm gonna trim the edges right off of here because I don't want them sticking out too much. I do want them to be available to pull out when we're actually eating these because you don't want a mouthful of toothpick, but then we are going to dredge this in a little bit of flour, that egg mixture, and straight into our oil here. Okay, so I trimmed those back, but I made sure that they were still accessible for us to pull out when we need to. I think that is probably about the best that I've got on our first test one here. So now it is dredge in the flour, mix or dip into the egg mixture here, which you can see it's already starting to try and become a liquid again. The yolks really do not like to stay in this foam. So we'll mix again. I will do a dip, and then straight into the oil. We'll see how that turns out. Okay, good little coating. Shake off excess into the egg, which is super fluffy, and into the oil. And I also don't have a lot of guidance on oil temperature here. It just said preheat oil in a hot pan. So this is going to be a big test check for us to see how this goes. Maybe I should pull up some reference images and see if we're on the right track when this comes out. But this should be just a few minutes of frying here. We want a nice golden brown on it. And then we pull out, sauce it, top it, and that is Chiles en Nogada. All right. We did the test one, came it out, and looked awesome. Cut into it, and it seemed like there were some areas of the pepper that just didn't have filling at all. And so on this one, we are going to add more to fill it out completely, because the flavor, when we got some of the filling with a tiny bit of the pepper, was really, really interesting. And I think that that's what we're going for, that little bit of sweet with that little bit of the freshness of the pepper. So instead of just doing a 1/4 cup, I'm actually going to be filling the pepper as best I can. And more importantly, I want to make sure that in every cross section of the pepper, there's going to be a little bit of the filling. So if I've gone too far now, I can go and try and close this together. And if I'm not able to, then I can take some out. But I would much rather have just this filling every bit of this pepper so that you get some in every bite. So give me a quick second, because I am going to, it looks like this one took almost a 1/2 cup, maybe a little more. So double what I would have normally put in here. I can still get a decent lip right there for me to be able to get the toothpicks through. So let me toothpick it up, and then I am gonna rearrange this so we can dredge and get it in the oil. So after a few minutes per side, they come out nice and golden brown. This is last one that I had enough batter for, but for all of them, we'll just pull them out real quick. Throw them on a paper towel, giving them a few minutes to drain out, because there is still quite a bit of oil that ends up being left in there. Our taste test one was greasy. But then we are going to dress it up with the sauce and some garnish, and we will do a little reveal over at the tasting table for this celebratory little Chilenos alike. So we'll see you over at the tasters. Okay, so with the extra stuffed bit, there is definitely some clear layers. You have significant stuffing, so I feel confident that we're gonna get a good bite of it in every bite.
It looks like it.
Now, one thing that I was thinking about is that the replacement that we did for the pomegranates with the cherries, I do think that that's gonna change a big amount of it texturally. Because think about like the popping of the pomegranate seeds, and then also the crunch of the seed part of the aril.
Right. Those very different from cherries.
Yes. So texturally, I think that's going to make a pretty big difference. And also, of course, flavor-wise. But hopefully, it's a decent stand-in.
All right. Let's dig in. I'm just going to stab it, and then... Nope, that's all leaking out, so... Here we go. Wow. This is awesome.
There's so much going on and all of it's great.
This thing is great. It's once you take the toothpicks out, it will fall apart on you. But just try and keep it together.
Oh, speaking of, I missed one. I see it. It's right there.
Oh, I'm not going to be eating that far back though, so.
Wow. Okay. So
I'm just going to fucking grab it. Here we go.
the flavor of the sauce individually has got the tang of both the goat cheese and the table cream. So it had like a tanginess to it, and it was almost sour. And then the stuffing had a little bit of savory, and then like this hint of sweetness. It wasn't overly sweet, but then at the very, very end of it, the spices that were in there came out. So that tiny bit of clove and cinnamon, actually you could taste it over there. And then there was all of these things, disparate things going on, and I like all of those things. But then you put them together, and they mellow all of each other out perfectly. He's eating it by hand.
I wanted it to stay together. This was the only way that was going to happen. And I regret nothing. This is fantabulous.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
And I can also see
appetite.
Pomegranate, so think about that. But the cherry has a nice tanginess to it that complements everything well. But I could see the pomegranate also.
I didn't think the cherries were going to taste... I didn't think the taste was going to come through as much, but it does.
And weirdly. I can see why it's important to have that as a garnish.
And it is really good, too, as cherries. So I can only imagine for pomegranates. It's important which one you get, though I don't think you're going to lose on either one. Yeah, this is good stuff.
Oh, wow. All right. Absolutely worth a try. It does make a little bit of a mess because there's a bit of prep involved, but so incredibly worth it. So incredibly worth it.
Yeah, so good.
All right. So
it's not necessarily a meal or a dessert. It's like a snack, kind of. Is that what it's supposed to be?
It's enormous. I mean, I don't know. It's
a lot of work for a snack.
A special occasion because it was designed for.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it was specifically designed to celebrate a king, or it was for an occasion. Sure. Augustine monks developed this dish, and part of that was to celebrate the liberation of the Mexican army.
Sure.
If I remember correctly, 1812. It wasn't designed to be like an everyday recipe like a lot of the ones that we've had before, which is why a lot of those are really basic ingredients prepared fairly simply. There was quite a bit that went into this. I mean, quite a bit, but
the result was spectacular.
It speaks for itself.
This thing is delicious. So, I guess that'll do it for this one.
Next time is carne asada.
Also good. I don't think you can mess that up. So I'm looking forward to that.
Gonna try my best not to, and I hope that you'll catch us then. And yeah, see you next time.